Prisoners' shoes left at the site of the Butugichag camp in Kolyma, Russia, 1989. A German soldier returns home and discovers that his house and family are no longer there. Frankfurt, 1946. A woman mourns the tragedy of July 3, 1988, when the U.S. Navy shot down an Iranian passenger plane with 290 civilians, including 66 children. Sea lions are beaten to death with sticks on St. Paul Island, Alaska, 1895. A forest truck accident where a log pierced a passenger car, Buffalo, New York, 1929. Scold's bridle, an item invented in the 1500s. An iron mask that tightly clung to the head was placed on women as a punishment for rude chatter and arguments. It was impossible to speak while wearing it. A bell was attached on top to attract attention. Passers-by gathered to watch Hero Audie Murphy visit a barber, Texas, 1946. The first ATM shown in San Francisco, 1966. These unique shots capture Berlin residents trying to save zoo animals amid the thunder of Soviet artillery. Germany, 1945. Between the start of the war and August 1941, Hitler exterminated about 100,000 Germans with mental and physical disabilities. A British Army infantry regiment before heading to war in 1914 and after its end in 1918. 8-year-old Christian accepts the flag during the memorial service for his father, who was killed on patrol in Iraq just a few weeks before he was due to return home. Pablo Escobar inside one of his cash vaults. Legend has it he spent $2,500 a month just on rubber bands to hold his money together. Colombia, 1982. Photo of a Soviet war veteran near the Eternal Flame on the anniversary of Victory Day, 1966. This little girl was separated from her family, but it was her only hope for survival, 1938. As part of the Kinder transport operation, Great Britain took in thousands of Jewish children. The defendant's dining table at the Nuremberg trials, Germany, 1945. During World War II, the U.S. Department of Defense commissioned Walt Disney to design children's gas masks. In ancient Rome, slaves who survived an epidemic were called immunes. They were sent to clear away corpses, and if they survived that, they were freed and received immunitas. This is how the word immunity originated. A woman takes a big black cigar in her mouth. USA, 1924. Group school photo, Austria, 1899. In the center of the back row, 10-year-old Adolf Hitler. Before Google Maps, there was a navigation helpline, 1963. Wounded when a mine blew up his Jeep, an ambulance driver sobbed by the side of the road after learning that a friend was killed in the blast, Korea, 1950. Soviet Soldiers by Hitler's Globe, 1945. The Wedding of Freddie Mercury's Parents, 1946. In 1932, a terrible famine occurred in the USSR, taking up to 7 million lives. This was hidden from foreigners with shows of full store shelves, and the 1937 census was classified. Several members of the Ku Klux Klan prepare to greet the Gay Pride Parade in Chicago, 1986. When you love baseball more than anything else, Tigers fans celebrate their World Series victory. Detroit, 1984. In 1991, Princess Diana made an important and bold gesture in the fight against prejudices surrounding the disease when she publicly shook the hand of a young man with AIDS without gloves. Peaky Blinders, Members of a gang that terrorized Birmingham, 1903. Soviet soldiers and an officer drinking with Americans to celebrate victory, 1945. Pompeii excavations using Giuseppe Fiorelli's plaster casting method. This is a room full of participants in the 1980 Space Invaders World Championship. Frank Selak, dubbed the world's luckiest man, survived 7 catastrophes, including train crashes, plane falls, and car explosions. After cheating death for a lifetime, he bought his first lottery ticket in 2003 and won $600,000. Finnish troops use a homemade slingshot to throw grenades at invading Soviet forces, 1939. HMS Hermione's ship Cat Convoy had his own hammock. He died with 87 crew members when the ship was torpedoed on June 16, 1942. Residents of Hanoi after an air raid warning, Vietnam, 1967. Epidemic of encephalitis lethargica, also known as sleeping sickness, one of the strangest diseases in the history of medicine. People infected with it constantly wanted to sleep and often didn't wake up. The mysterious epidemic observed in the 1920s spread to many countries. Staff of the Disney Film Company during their lunch break, 1961. A little girl from the Philippines was displayed in the Coney Island Zoo with animals. She was placed among monkeys and lizards, tied with ropes, and people were allowed to throw peanuts at her, 1914. Swedish soldiers prepare arrested Germans and Baltics for extradition to the USSR. These were soldiers from the Third Reich who fled to this country after World War II. Survivors of the Titanic approached the SS Carpathia, 1912. The Nushu alphabet, invented by women in a province of southern China for communication among themselves, as they were denied access even to primary education. It was used until 1912. One of the last photos of passengers boarding the American Airlines flight on September 11th. The plane that later crashed into the Pentagon as a result of hijacking. In case of war, evacuate the children, cover the windows, kill the cat. After the declaration of war in September 1939, the British killed over 750,000 pets, fearing there would be nothing to feed them. A rare photo of North Korean leader Kim Il-sung showing a tumor on his neck. Photographers were prohibited from photographing the right side of his face. Late 1980s. Dance of Loyalty. A ritual dance symbolizing the dancer's loyalty to the country's leader, Mao Zedong, PRC, 1967. Lunch break during the filming of Star Wars. This pensioner dreamed of jumping off Niagara Falls in a barrel her entire youth, and in 1901, at the age of 63, she fulfilled her dream. A harsh yet convincing form of punishment for violating military discipline was used on a Soviet guard ship in 1991. The coffins of 19 peasants are transported on trucks for burial. Para State, Brazil. In 1996, 1,500 peasants occupied a highway near the village of El Dorado dos Carajas to protest the government's delay in settling their families. By the end of the day, military police with rifles and machine guns surrounded the protesters on both sides of the road and opened fire, killing 19 peasants and wounding 57. Division of family property in a courtroom, USA, 1999. Albert Einstein with a girl on his lap at the opening of the 1939 World's Fair in New York. Laszlo Toth, arrested after committing an act of vandalism. He attacked Michelangelo's Pietà, shouting, "I am Jesus Christ, Christ has risen from the dead," and managed to strike it 15 times with a hammer, 1972. Leaders of the countries participating in World War II as children. The Bronx Zoo featured an exhibit called The Most Dangerous Animal in the World. It was a mirror. USA, 1963. A hungry boy standing for hours in an endless line for rice, China, 1948. Demonstration of the Devil's Win execution method. This type of execution involved tying the condemned to the muzzle of a cannon and firing a cannonball through their body. Before Hitler's rise, the swastika was an ancient symbol of good luck for 3,000 years. Bicycles designed for riding on railway tracks, Pellston, Michigan, 1910. At the request of astronauts, a piece of rough fabric was attached to the inside of the lunar spacesuit's helmet so they could scratch their nose. Apollo 17, 1972. A boy looks at a television for the first time through a store window, 1948. The 1950s, a woman using Wilhelm Reich's orgone accumulator, a pseudoscientific device claimed to collect life energy and cure radiation sickness. Regardless of its scientific merit, it was certainly beneficial. As one husband remarked, his wife sits silently in that box for 4 hours every day. When boredom strikes at the front, soldiers have to improvise. Here, French troops dressed as women entertain their fellow comrades along the Maginot Line, 1940. In the psychiatric clinic where I was treated, one man thought he was Napoleon, and another, San Martin. No one believed me that I was Maradona. Diego Maradona, 1994. Previously unknown photo of Osama bin Laden at Oxford in 1971, about 14 years old at the time. 100 years ago, this man was considered incredibly fat and was even showcased in a circus. A protest against racial integration in schools, USA, 1959. Anonymous nurse, New York, 1940s. A 32-year-old nurse strangled her lover, a doctor, with a silk belt during a BDSM session in an apartment. He had requested asphyxiation, but she overdid it out of jealousy, since the doctor was cheating on her. The court ruled it as an accident. Benito Mussolini, arrested for evading service in the Italian army at the age of 20. Switzerland, 1903. He was a socialist and loved playing the violin at that time. He later became a fascist. Women's wrestling, 1954. In the USA, slaves were forced to wear iron masks to prevent them from eating, singing, and speaking their native language. Slavery was abolished in the US in 1865 and in Brazil in 1888. A postcard, late 19th, early 20th century. Loading the first hard drive onto a Pan American plane, 1965. It weighed about 2,000 pounds and held only 5 millibeer. Today's phone replaces thousands of those drives. After the death of the dog Laika in space, women from Mississippi wrote to the UN. They condemned the cruelty to the dog, proposing to use little Negroes from their city for scientific experiments instead. Albanian refugees fleeing war, Morini, Albania, 1999. During Prohibition in the USA, bootleggers stole industrial alcohol, and authorities decided to intentionally poison it. This federal program killed at least 10,000 people by 1933. True love lasts forever. A kiss dating back 6,000 years, discovered during construction work in Iran, 1972. Vibrating bra for breast strengthening, 1971. Many women were convinced of its effectiveness. In 1959, the Volkswagen Beetle came with an optional coffee maker. Germany. This is a wealthy family, 1910s, Liberia. In the 19th century, a movement arose in the U.S. to return freed African slaves to Liberia. Later, African Americans captured lands of indigenous tribes, enslaving them, and, replicating the U.S. lifestyle, became slaveholders. Freed prisoners of the Veblen concentration camp awaiting medical assistance, World War II, Germany, 1945. How the Victorian corset damages the ribs, 1882. The times when there was no internet. Group portrait of a women's hockey team, Canada, 1916. A lost and found room at a Paris police station, 1954. Auschwitz concentration camp after liberation, 1945. During the filming of Fort Apache, many scenes required specific weather conditions, and director John Ford paid a Navajo medicine man to give him weather forecasts. Several days they were accurate, but one day the medicine man said he couldn't predict anymore. When asked why, he said that an actor had taken his radio receiver. During hyperinflation in Germany, workers were paid twice a day, morning and evening, and during lunch they were released from work to buy something with their rapidly depreciating money. Refugees flee south from North Korea on a train to escape advancing communist forces from the north, 1950. In the winter of 1950, the Korean War reached a brutal peak. This photo shows thousands of refugees risking their lives to cross the shattered beams of the Taedong Bridge. On an evening just like this one, many years ago, Madonna showed off incredible skill in a bar with friends. Oh Madonna, 1980s. The horror of knowing you're about to die was the final reality for Auschwitz victims. Deceived into entering what they thought were showers, they were trapped in gas chambers. This photo shows the scratch marks from their nails, a testament to their final horrifying realization as they died. German concentration camp, c. 1940. During the settlement of the western regions of North America, there were mostly men living there. In the photo, 4 men from Montana posted a notice on their house saying they were looking for wives. Early 20th century. Black man in a whites-only cafe, Virginia, 1960. Alcatraz prison, where the most dangerous American criminals were held, operated until 1963 and was the only federal prison at the time where inmates had access to warm showers. The administration decided that prisoners accustomed to comfort would be less likely to attempt to escape by swimming across the cold San Francisco Bay. 19th century vampire hunting kit. Hoofprint boots used during the Prohibition era in the United States. Alcohol vendors wore this type of footwear so they couldn't be tracked by regular shoe prints. Half-naked FBI agent carries $1 million ransom to a hijacked Delta DC-8 jet, Miami, 1972. Chinese celebrating the successful test of the first atomic bomb, Lop Nur Nuclear Test Site, 1964. In 18th century England, rapists always walked free. If the victim did not become pregnant, the crime was not considered proven. If she did become pregnant, the court ruled that she had received pleasure, and the offender was acquitted. Sparked a reaction. Whether good or bad, I'd love to read your comments below. Get ready for the next installment very soon. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you later.